Hi, I'm Lisa Singer. I am the Senior Director of Events Programming at Media Post, and this is Brand Insider BTS, where I get to pull back the curtain on some of the most influential women marketers today. And with me is Catherine Seaton. She is the VP of Marketing at Windsor. Hey, Catherine.
Good morning. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're recovering from. We just had your presence. I was able to hang out with you last week in Tahoe. That was so fun for our not only our retail summit, but also our data and programmatic summit. So
It was a great week with you guys, and I'm not gonna lie, when I got home for the weekend, I slept all day Saturday and just took a day to recoup.
I'm sure. Well, you gave an awesome TikTok presentation. So we love you getting involved like that and sharing your insights. So, well, now we won't be talking about the professional side of you anymore. This is more about just you and just you, how you're rode here. And I really want to say in my first question, I always like to do my little snooping and not only snooping on you, but also on your brand, which Windsor.
Yeah.
And so Windsor's mission statement is to create an oasis that inspires and empowers. So I think that's an awesome mission statement, but I think it's even one that could be incorporated to ourselves. So for you, what type of, what inspires you? What empowers you personally?
For me, they're two different things. What has empowered me, especially early on in my career, really were my parents. I feel so fortunate to have them. Early in my career, I knew that if I failed, my mom and dad would always be there. And it really enabled me to go after the things that I wanted to really try and do because I knew I had that safety net. And I think it really allowed me to explore different things in my career and take risks that I might not have done without that. And I just, as I look back, I feel so thankful that I had that kind of foundation to lean on to be able to do that because I know not everybody has that. For me, my inspiration now is my daughter. And so it always comes back to family, but my daughter's 19. And over the last 19 years with her in my career, um, she's always watching me, right? And so she's always inspiring me to kind of be your better self. And I think having that person in your life that pushes you to be the best you can be, um, for good reasons is so important, and to remember to laugh and to love and to have fun, all of those things. So that's my empower and inspire in my life. I feel fortunate. I have my parents are still with me and actually live in a little cottage with me, so it's great. I have everybody close by.
That's awesome. Well, and I love
Mhm.
that, you had their support and then as well as obviously now with your daughter there. I'm curious. So early on when you took those kind of risks, was there one risk that pops out, like something that you did maybe and that you might not have, as you said, if you didn't know that your parents were there supporting you?
Yeah, early in my career, coming out of college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I moved around a lot. Probably the first 4 years out of college, I moved almost every year from Arizona to California to Texas, back to Arizona, back to California. So pretty big moves, totally changing, very different reasons for each one. But I think knowing that they were there and that I could always go home if I needed to allowed me to kind of go and try these things that obviously not all worked out in. Was I don't know that I would have taken all of those chances.
Right. Well, you said as yourself when you were graduating, you weren't necessarily sure which direction you wanted. I'm curious. So talk about that and what you aspired to be when you were first just graduating college. Because you since then, had some really amazing positions at the Gap, Harry and David, Harbor Freight Tools, just to name a few of them until now here at Windsor. So from that confused or maybe just not quite, having that
Mhm.
real agenda of what you want to do to where you got to. Talk about that and how that transpired.
Yeah, so my best friend was the person who knew exactly what school they wanted to go to and what they wanted to major in when she was like 5. I had no idea. College was just one of those things that you're supposed to do after high school. And so I went to college, I got a degree, a double major in economics and East Asian studies. I'm half Chinese, wanted to learn more about that. So I came out of college with no idea what I wanted to do. And for me, I think what has helped me get to where I am in my career is that I've just always been really open to trying new things, right? The worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to fail. The best thing that's going to happen is that I'm going to learn something new and I'm going to get a new experience. And in marketing, it's not rocket science, it's not brain surgery, it's not life or death. And so I think you can take more risks in your career in that way, knowing that um, the downside isn't necessarily going to be an absolutely horrible outcome. And so for me in my career, as I've moved around from role to role, each role has kind of added on a different layer of marketing. And I've just been open to saying yes. Will you take on store marketing? Sure. Will you take on community? Absolutely. Can you try managing the performance team? Yes. And so it's, I think, just being open and saying yes and trying new things um, has one kept it really interesting and fun for me. I really like the sandbox that I play in and kind of the breadth and variation within that. The channels are so different. And I wouldn't have all of that if I had been afraid of failing and not taking those risks.
I'm curious, do you think that's almost a prerequisite to someone in your position, someone in marketing? Like if you were to give advice to someone starting out, to be open to change. I mean, because marketing is in itself all about change.
Mhm.
Consumer behaviors are changing, lifestyles change, everything. You have to be on top of. There's new technology. It's constantly learning and constantly what you know today is going to maybe mean nothing, and it's going to be a whole new set of rules a year from now. So is that almost a requirement for someone in your position? And how can someone who maybe isn't always ready to fail or take those risks, how would you advise them if they were looking for your career?
Two parts. So one, you have to be open, but two, I think being humble and always knowing you don't know everything, right? And so surrounding yourself with really smart people that you can call, that you can ask questions of, that you can learn from, that can brainstorm with you, that you can bounce ideas off of as you're learning something new is really important. And so I think it is being open to trying new things, but I think it is also being humble and knowing that you don't know everything and that you always have more to learn. And I think those kind of need to go hand in hand. For me, I was so fortunate. My very first role at Gap, I had an amazing boss, Priscilla. She was the VP of Global Compliance, and she really gave me a lot of access to what was going on. She had me drink from the fire hose. But the one thing she taught me early on in my career is to get comfortable with ambiguity. And she was like, Catherine, things are always going to be changing. Things are always going to be different. You're not always going to know what the end is that you're trying to get to or how you're going to get there. And things are constantly going to change on the road along the way. And so you have to learn to get really comfortable with ambiguity and being able to pivot, being able to focus on what you're doing, right? And being able to kind of continue working through that period to when you get to periods where things are a little bit more stable. And it is a little bit, right? Like you go through these big periods of change and then things kind of stable out for a while and then there's change. And so I think that just really helped me kind of wrap my head around the concept of that and get comfortable with it. And so that's one of the biggest pieces of advice I give to most of people who are new in their career. If they ask me for advice, it's get really comfortable with ambiguity. It's okay to not know everything, to not know where it's going, to not necessarily know how you're going to get there. The most important thing is to learn how to problem solve and how to figure out what's that first next step you're going to take, and to not try to see the 100 steps because that can be overwhelming, but to just try to figure out what's my next best step. And you have to be able to look up out at the horizon every now and then. But if you can just take one step and then the next step and then the next step and keep that forward progress, you'll get there.
Yeah, no, and it makes sense. And as I said, it's especially when you're talking in this industry and the changes, you can have, your 5-year plan, and that
TikTok
may
didn't exist, but like right,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And here you are talking about TikTok last week.
Yeah.
Amazing job. But 5 years ago, if we said, will you talk about TikTok? TikTok was around, what I think it was, but just not as, I'm trying to think. It was around because I remember when I was first starting with Media Post and doing events, everyone wanted to hear something about TikTok, but no one could talk about it because no one
and it's
had anything that
changed as
had
a
been.
platform. Yeah, it has changed so much in what you can now do on TikTok as a consumer and as a marketer both.
No,
Yeah.
for sure. You talk about these challenges, and I'm curious, was there a challenge within your career that you faced that maybe, it was just like, wow, it was a little bit of a gut check, or just you had to,
Yeah.
how did you get past it? Talk about that.
Um, there's the saying, the grass is not always greener. And when people are looking for a job that kind of don't move just to move. And there was a point in my career where I took a role and it was a great opportunity. And I loved the experience that I got, but it just wasn't a great cultural fit for me. And it's a great company and a great organization. It just wasn't a great space for me. And I got about 9 months in and was talking with my husband and my friends and my mentors and was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Like, this isn't the right home for me, right? And I had to really figure out what I was going to do. When you in certain roles, when you move, they'll relocate you. Like, there's expenses involved in that, and it was one of those where it was, do I stay in this situation um, that isn't a great fit for me? It's not good for the organization. Or do I kind of just bite the bullet and move on and make that move? And I was really fortunate. My old boss called me and they hadn't filled my old role. And he was like, Catherine, we haven't filled your old role. Are you happy? And it was just a really fortuitous, lucky thing for me that that was still available and I was able to go back for that. But it really, I think, shifted how I look at roles. And when I'm thinking of moving, why am I thinking of moving? What is it that I want in my next role? And making sure that it is really intentional and that I really spend time learning about the organization, meeting the people that I'm going to be working with, and asking for extra interview time, meeting extra folks on the team to just try to get a little better sense of where I'm going
Yeah.
before I go. Because at the end of the day, you spend more time with the people you work with than you do with anybody else. And what that environment is like impacts your whole life. If you are happy at work and you're around a really amazing organization and group of people, you go home in a really positive mind frame. And even when the work is challenging, you can work through it. When you don't have that synergy, not only is your workday hard, but you're going home, right, in kind of that frame of mind. And so and it's really hard to not have that carry over with you
Yep.
on that side of it. So, again, just kind of really understanding what the organization is about and really understanding what you're about and what's important to you for the company, for the people to be like, not just the role itself, not just the salary and compensation. You really have to look at kind of the whole package.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to say, oh, the shiny penny, or that, like what
Yeah.
it's an amazing company that you've always wanted to work at, from the outside in,
Yeah.
or, oh my gosh, no one's been willing to pay me that much, or whatever may be that perk or that thing that's going to draw you there. But none of that's going to matter if ultimately you're not happy, because it's going to impact not only your attitude, but your work, your like all of the above.
100%.
And as you
Yeah.
said, even bringing it to your personal life. So it's really, you have to kind of look at all of the pieces involved.
Yeah.
So it's easy to go for though, like, oh, that's a nice paycheck. But ultimately, no, I totally agree. I think today, younger generations today see that more. I feel like they're looking for that more when they are choosing a company to work for, as opposed to
And there's
looking.
more out there. Like, people talk about it on social. There's, websites now where you can go see how a company is rated by its current and past employees, right? There's just so much more research you can see who's worked there before, and you can reach out to them on LinkedIn, and you can say, hey, would you mind talking to me a little bit about what your experience there was like there's just so many ways you can do that now that weren't available, 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm curious, what do people get wrong about you when they first meet you? Maybe their first impression, but then a little bit down the line, as they get to know you, they're like, I was wrong, or it was just not who you are.
Oof. um I think sometimes, and I think we all do this, we'll put someone in a box, right? Like it's, oh, Catherine is this. And for me, um, I really enjoy and like a lot of different things. And I think that more than anything kind of surprises people, because I have a lot of really varied interests. It's that kind of, I'm a Gemini, right? It's kind of that, like, I really like, to get dressed up and be really professional. I love my career. I also love going off-roading on the weekends and getting out in the dirt and being, in my tennis shoes. And I think there are a lot of different sides to people. And I think for all of us to just remember that, and that the what you see in the workspace is not who the person is, right, in their entirety. And I think just to remember that, and I always try to remember that, that there are a lot of different sides to people, because sometimes I think everybody can feel a little misunderstood or misinterpreted, at different points in their career. And I think that's just a reminder to yourself to not do the same thing. But yeah, I definitely love to kind of get out into nature. But I'm a girly girl too. I definitely love getting dressed up and going out at night in the city. So
I have to say, so my first was, I think, last year. We had a phone conversation, hadn't met you yet, and we were talking about whatever we were, case study or whatever kind of thing you were going to be involved with, finding out what you were more doing work side. And I remember you were a little intimidating. I don't know, maybe in a sense that just so professional and so not, and it just, I had a certain idea of you. And then the first time I met you at an event, I almost took a step back. I was sort of like, oh, that's Catherine. And like you, because your persona was then this other way. So I completely understand what you're getting. Like you have these different sides to you that depending on, I guess, the situation, we were talking work, we were
Mhm.
talking strategy. So this was
That was
Catherine
work, Catherine.
belt,
Mhm.
hat. And then when we met in person, it was just a different side of you that but it was very like I was surprised it was you. So I remember that taking that in. So there was as you said, sort of that very two different sides, or maybe five different sides. We haven't unraveled them all. We'll take some more time, but so I understand what you're saying like that. So it was all good always, but just different
Mhm.
impressions. So, all right. So I want to have, again, going back to Windsor. And for people who don't know, Windsor has fashion and dresses. Is the audience predominantly younger, or is it all ages, or I don't want to speak for you.
yeah, our customer really discovers us usually at eighth grade promotion or her first homecoming dance. And she tends to stay with us into her late 30s, early 40s at least. We have everything from homecoming and prom and graduation when you're younger, but all of the occasions as you go through your life. When you have your 21st birthday party and you're out with your friends and it's girls' night out, and then it's, you're a bridesmaid and you're getting married and there's bachelorettes, and then you're a wedding guest, and then you've got holiday parties and New Year's Eve. Like there's always occasions in your life. And some are like tentpole milestones, and some happen every year, like your birthday or your anniversary, where you get dressed up and you celebrate. And so it really ranges across that. And I think one of the the fun or surprising things, to your point of like people don't always know who you are, a lot of customers, because of how they discover us, associate us with formal dresses and with their first prom. And then later, as they get into their 20s and they kind of rediscover us, and they're like, oh, you have cargo pants? You guys have jeans? I didn't know you had blazers, and there's this whole other half of the store, that kind of has everything else. And it's always fun for me to talk to customers and understand how they discovered us, and what they shop with us for now, and kind of how that's evolved over the years, and changed.
That was a perfect analogy from what we were just talking about. And
Mhm.
what I want to ask you about specifically is because I know you launched earlier this year a prom shop. So you have like 900 dresses for, just to suit every style is what you say. What your slogan or however you, if I don't know if it's a slogan, but anyway, it's how you advertise it. So that got me thinking about your prom. So curious. I want to hear one, what did you wear? But just the whole feeling, who was the guy or who was what, just talk about all of that.
Okay. Uh, my dad was in the army, so I was actually living in Germany when I was in high school, going to high school on a military base, and we had prom, thankfully. So I definitely got to experience all of that, and it was a little unusual. So for prom, first I had a pink uh, Gunny Sacks, Jessica McClintock. I don't know if you remember that. That was a brand back in the day with the formal dresses. Pink lace dress that was like a sheath, but it had a pink taffeta bubble skirt, like bubble mini skirt on it, and it was strapless. I loved the dress. I still have pictures of it. It was super fun. We this is gonna sound fancy, but it really wasn't. I promise. We went over to France for dinner. We were living in Germany, and went and had dinner, and then went to prom, and it was super fun. It was a, I think. Everybody puts so much pressure around what they want prom to be, and I'm really thankful that I had a really fun, easy, nice prom, which was great.
Well, you left out. So was it a boyfriend? Was it just a guy that you knew? What? Talk about all of that.
Yes. Uh,
It was Bradley Kenneth Reynolds. Definitely, yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah, definitely. I think kind of, first big crush in high school for sure. Captain of the soccer team, just a really amazing guy, really amazing family. I actually am still connected with his mom on Facebook to this day, and we still message each other throughout the year. Just they are just a really great family in general, and really great guys. It was really fun.
Now, so were you a couple? So it was just a given you were going, or did he ask you, or like, so, I mean, he'd still,
I
I guess.
honestly don't remember that. We were definitely a couple. We had been dating for a few months. So it was definitely a given. And I was actually a couple years ahead of him. He was a sophomore, and
Oh, younger man.
because we were in Germany, I ended up leaving and coming back to the States for college, and that ultimately ended up being kind of why we ended up breaking up, because we were just so far apart.
Oh, that's sad. You must have, were you,
But things happen in your life for a reason, right? Like I I would never have had my daughter.
yeah.
Right, like it would have been an entirely different situation. So, and I wouldn't give her up for the world.
I
yeah.
love that. Did he wear anything pink or did he match, like give you any type of flowers or anything to match? So you
It
guys
was all in black. I'm trying to remember. I don't think his cummerbund was pink. I think it was black. I think it was just the corsage.
all right. Just gotta gotta get all the details.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm curious, what's your guilty pleasure?
I I love bubble baths, and I love Lush bath bombs. I'm not gonna lie, and so I keep a little stock of those in the bathroom constantly, and that's kind of my, like, relax, unwind, kind of quiet time. Uh, definitely have like the whole tray that I can set my book on, have music set up in there, have the candles. So it's just kind of a little mini spa oasis at home for me, to kind of help me unwind and relax and just kind of disconnect.
Do you have little music in the background or is it more silence? What do you?
It depends on the night for sure, but I definitely have a little speaker in there if I want some music going.
But I have to ask, what'd you say, bath bomb? Splash
Bath
bomb?
bomb.
Bath bomb, what is that?
Oh my goodness, Lisa. Okay, you have to check out Lush. They're amazing. They're bath bombs, and they have
Lush is the
Well,
brand. Okay, I thought you were saying
Lush,
like Lush, like you were
oh
describing it.
no. Lush is the brand, Lush. They have stores throughout the US, and you can also get them online. And the bath bombs are all these, so there's like lavender and just all these different scents. And you drop it in your bath, and it fizzes, and most of them have some kind of essential oil in them and bath salt. So it's really nice for your skin. Some of them will turn your water different colors, like pink or blue or green. And some of them will have glitter. Like they're crazy, but they're so much fun, and they're just really relaxing. And I think kind of like my little luxury that I like to indulge in.
Awesome. That sounds great. I'll have to check it out. Okay, so I want to, if you were to talk to young Catherine, say maybe you're 9 years old or so, maybe even 10 or 11 in that range, what advice would you give her? Something you wish you knew then that you kind of know now?
Don't feel like you have to pick and settle on one thing. I think a lot of times you will early on lock in on what you think your career, what you think you want your career to be. And you will progress in it a little bit, and you'll be afraid to start over, to try new things. And I think I would just apply that to every phase in life. Like there's just so much out there. Go and do and see and explore and do all the things. Go travel, go try new restaurants. Go, like you never know what you're going to uncover. And I think just um, really living life on that side of it, and just having fun, and having balance. I know that's not one thing. I probably just said like 10 things, but I think like just do all the things, go all the places, be open, and have balance, and it's okay. I think the one other thing that I will say, and I said this at a conference a couple years back, in the moment, be in the moment. When uh, when I'm working, I just focus on work, and I don't feel guilty that I'm not with my daughter or with the rest of my family, or I just focus on work. And when I go home and I spend time with my family, I'm with my family. I don't feel guilty that I'm not still checking email. When I go take a bubble bath, that's me time. I'm going to enjoy that time for me, right? Like whatever it is that you're in, enjoy that moment for what it is to the fullest, and don't feel guilty about the other things that you're not doing then. Otherwise, there's almost no point in even doing what you're doing, um, because you're constantly thinking of that. And I think that is, if I had to narrow it down to one thing, I would probably say that just be in that moment. And it's okay to take time for yourself. It's okay to take time for your family. It's okay to take time for your career.
Yeah, well, I'm curious though, because women especially do feel pulled in different directions. It's just, the way it's been. You feel guilty, like mom, going back, you moms, and then you going back to work and leaving the baby, and then, like all the things you just mentioned. How did you get to this point of realization? Like, were you always there? Or was there a part where it took time to kind of evolve into where you are at now?
I definitely don't think I was always there. I think especially earlier on in my career, um, I think you feel compelled, and you're always trying to get that next promotion, get to that next step. And if you're not focused on that or doing that, and you're seeing everyone else around you, being successful, and you feel like you need to do all of this, I think really what changed it for me was having my daughter. And she changed my life in a million ways, but it shifted for me what was important in my life, and the things you learn to let go, because when you have a kid, like, the house is going to be a mess most of the time, and so you learn to let go of always having everything put away, right? And plans are going to change because of how your child is doing in that moment. And so I think you learn to just kind of let things go a little bit. And I think as part of that process, I learned to kind of just enjoy where I am and not get too hung up on where I wasn't in that moment.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think maybe your daughter helped you to prioritize things or just kind of
Absolutely.
figure that
Mhm.
out.
Shifted. Yeah.
Yeah. I love the way you talk about your daughter. You're obviously so close, and the advice you were giving young Catherine, is that advice you would also give your daughter, or like sometimes it can be different. What you would think for yourself might be a little different, or think for someone else's daughter, or and I don't mean that in a negative way, but then your own kid, you might be a little bit more protective or wanting more, or all those things. Do you feel like you are able to be that person, be that one to give the advice that you wish you had, or are you maybe sort of a little in conflict with that as well?
I certainly try. It's hard as a mom, right? Because you always want to protect your child, but at the end of the day, you also have to know that you can't learn for them. You can't take the hurt away for them. You can't um, be the motivation for them, right? If you're the one that's always making them do their homework, when are they going to learn to that they're not doing their homework for you as the parent? They're doing the homework for them. It's for them. It's for their future. It's what sets them up for that. And so I definitely try to do that and to encourage her to do the things and try the things, but to do it in a smart way and to do it in a safe way, right? And just to take risks and to take chances, but to again to just kind of be thoughtful, and intentional about that, but also to just let loose and have fun. I mean, like, we were talking on the drive back from Tahoe when we were there, and it's like you're 19, you know, like, I love that you are so focused on school, and you're already working as a marketing coordinator, and you're trying to get another, internship, and you're focused on that. But like, go have some fun, go out with your friends, like, this is a moment in your life where you can do that, and it's okay to do that. Like, it's you're gonna be great in your career and you're gonna do just fine. Have some fun too. And I don't know if that's just because I've gotten to a point in my life where, like, I understand and have that balance that I'm really thankful for. But with her, I really just try to um, encourage her to not kind of lose sight of that side of it. And for me as a mom to not, you know, you got to do the dishes before you go out, or make sure, like, I try to let some of that go, and I remember back to my childhood where, like, my mom and I would get into a huge fight because she wanted me to do the dishes before I'd go out for the night. And I just wanted to go out with my friends. And like, now for me, I'm like, the dishes are going to get done. And, like, it's okay. Like, I think I hopefully am a little bit more relaxed about that. And I'm just encouraging her to go try and do those things.
Well, I mean, I met her last week, and one, like, she's just so lovely, and and obviously this the closeness between you two is there. So I think you're doing a good job there, Catherine. So I wouldn't worry about that. And I think you know that you are. I mean, what other daughter would want to go to an outing, an event like this with their mother? I mean, that says a lot right there. So, and just finally, one last question, just a trend now. Like, I mean, you talked about TikTok. Maybe that's one. Something just that's just for fun, just for sleep. Maybe it's some reality show. Maybe is there a trend that's happening now that you just got caught up in, and it's kind of like a little embarrassing, but it's just something that you love to do or be a part of.
Um, it is TikTok, and it's I love to dance. I've always loved dancing, and one of in our off-roading group, we have people that are all different ages, and there's a young woman in that group. She's 20, and we'll get together and do dinner like once a month, and we'll talk about her school and her work, and and go off-road and all of that. And she loves to do TikTok dances, and so she talked me into doing a couple with her, and I think what's great about that is she's so uninhibited at that age and just having fun. And it just reminds me to kind of like let go. And you don't always have to have this perfectly polished persona that you present to the world, right? Like, you are this like, Catherine, you're amazing just the way you are. Like I think you need to tell yourself that sometimes, right? Like the people that know you well and really know who you are, they're going to love you for exactly who you are. And they're going to love the goofy side of you as much as they love the other side of you. And so it's okay to laugh at yourself and to have fun and to be silly and to be goofy. And she helps me do that. And we did one dance the other day on TikTok, and then she was like, "Well, let's do this one." And I was like, "Jilly, there's no way I'm going to learn another dance tonight." And she's like, "Well, let's just practice it. Let's just try." And then she's like, "Well, let's just film it a few times." And she's like, and then she was like, "Well, let's just put it out there." And by the end, I was like, "Okay, fine, whatever." But I think like having that fun in your life and just letting loose a little bit and being silly and being okay with it not being perfect.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think like I can do it. It's harder for me to document it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so
It's
I can be that person, but to know it's being filmed and going out into the world, going out, and I'm not going to see most people who are looking at it. That's where I have the difficulty in being on social media. It's one thing
yeah.
to be silly or do things in person, and you see people's reactions and it's engaging, it's interacting. But when it's just put out there into the universe and you don't know how people like they think look stupid. I don't know. Then that's where I have my issue.
But
So
that's okay. Like they don't know you, right? And maybe you do look a little silly, but that's okay too. Like yeah.
no, I
Yeah.
agree, Catherine. I am working to get to your that comfort zone.
I
So
don't know what I'm comfortable with, and I'm just trying to.
that you're okay with it. Well, Catherine, thank you so much. This was such a pleasure. I love getting to know you. We hung out last year in Tahoe. This maybe not is quite a beautiful scenery, but although your house is very lovely, but it was so nice to get to know more about this side of you as well. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you for watching. And please, as I always say, if you have a woman that you know that you would love to sort of hear their story, just let me know and I will do my best to get her. Just email me at lisa@mediapost.com. So thanks for watching. And again, thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.